Hey guys, hope you're well. You've seen me in casual wear because I wanted to give you a different type of court update. Got my pocket a little messed up. There we go. And you can hear some thunder. It's nice and cool because I wanted to bring the dog to a cool area. Previously, I was in Mexico hanging out for about 2 days and the dog hated the heat. So now I'm up at Big Bear Lake. And on Thursday, we got a court case, Streets LA. And then Friday, we have DOA. So certainly the rest of this week will be busy, so catch my breath for a second. But you might have noticed I didn't give an update on Solomon last time. So I wanted to give you an update. And first start with the good news. The good news is Tony has officially been served. Zero Dark Tony, of course, that's the closeted man who has been constantly harassing Solomon and a bunch of other streamers to the point of defamation, to the point of harassment, to the point of really sexual harassment, if you think about it. So the least you could do, in addition to really charging him for some even very more serious criminal stuff, is at least try to file a restraining order against him. I did make a mistake when I showed up to court, but it worked out fine because Solomon didn't really want anybody there. I showed up in the morning and saw Streets and figured Solomon's was in the morning as well. His was actually at 1:30. He did not tell me that. I tried to connect with him, but that is okay. And Solomon also asked that I kind of hold my breath and not really talk about it until after some machinations fell into place. Now he gave me the green light to do it. Of course, he is not going to control what I'm saying or anything like that. But if I want to help somebody's case and the person involved in the case wants me to stave off, I will do so. And guys, you know, if people saying I'm a biased source, yes, I'm a biased source. I'm on the side of the protesters. At the same time, I'm going to give you the honest information and give you the information objectively and analyze it objectively. But of course, I'm an advocate for the people who have been fighting against Scientology and have been putting in the effort to do so. So I'm a biased source in a lot of ways. Yes, I am. So yeah, want to give you a very quick, simple update as to what happened. And Solomon gave me a very good rundown. It was a very quick, simple court case. What they were trying to do is Solomon was trying to remark that he's exhausted every single alternative effort to try to serve Tony, whether that be using his available email, whether that be proving he's aware of this restraining order, and he presented the evidence of him talking about this restraining order case. Of course, Tony could have made an argument that perhaps he was off in the mountains getting therapy for his obvious closeted homosexuality, and that he just wasn't aware of any of this service. But of course, that's not the case, and he proudly announced that he was aware of all of this. So, very good news. He indicated that he was aware, and the judge granted that simply by sending a Twitter post saying he's been served, detailing what his restraining order is, giving him a copy of the paper, presenting all that, Tony has officially been served. Now, here's the difference. It has only been granted as a restraining order, as a temporary restraining order, not actually a permanent restraining order. So that the next obstacle, not really much of an obstacle, I would say it's almost pro forma, it's pretty much a slam dunk at this case, but the next task is, I believe, on August 13th, and I'll double check that court date, and that court date I certainly will be there for. He'll be able to convert the temporary restraining order, unless Tony has some compelling argument and shows up against it, a temporary restraining order converting into an actual permanent restraining order. Right now, this restraining order is applicable until mid-October, which is certainly still a good amount of time. But of course, Solomon wants to try to... This is why I took the dog up north, so that he gets a little bit of rain, so you hear some of the thunder. So forgive me for that, or forgive the weather, forgive God for that. But yes, so that's... It should be a slam dunk. Tony will probably not actually show up. But it's a good thing, man, because it sets a precedent. And I will say there are some other streamers who have thought out loud, privately, about potentially creating that same temporary restraining order against Tony. Because what Tony does is he damages people via the internet. You Google their name and something shows up. Now, I don't care about it. And Tony has said that he loves calling me a predator and calling me a groomer, and that clearly no other news station will hire me, and this is why I'm doing it. Well, guess what, guys? The moment that I went to the press and talked about, because in case you guys don't know, I was a news reporter who got fired from my local TV news station in Yuma, Arizona, pretty small time. I got fired for speaking the truth about Scientology, specifically remarking after the death of Lisa Marie Presley that she would likely testify against Danny Masterson in the Danny Masterson trial, because Lisa Marie was a Scientologist for decades, and she was best friends with one of the Jane Doe victims of Danny Masterson. 20 years ago, she was convinced by Scientology to call her best friend, to tell her best friend to stand down and not go to the police. Lisa Marie Presley felt a lot of guilt, and she was going to get a lot of fair game repercussions for going and speaking out against Scientology, but she wanted to right her wrong, and I thought that was brave, and I thought that should be part of her legacy, so I simply added the truth in that piece. Scientology threatened to sue, and then I got fired, and I had two options. I could have pretended it never happened. My boss thought I generally did good work. The higher-ups wanted to fire me, the entire owners of the conglomerate that owns 6 different stations. They want to fire me. My direct boss said, hey man, I'll give you a recommendation. You can pretend this never happened. So that's when I made, and look, with all that stuff on Google saying I spoke out against my news station, guys, I'm not going to get hired by a local news station ever again from that moment on. That was the moment. I decided to make my decision because I wanted the truth to get out there. And I thought that me broadcasting my story will further hurt Scientology. And if I could sort of fall on my sword in a minor way, and it's a minor way because, guys, we were only getting paid $30,000 a year. So it's not like I did something ultra heroic or anything. It's not like I was losing this career where they're paying me $200,000 or anything like that. But that was the decision I made. So I don't care. So I'm not trying to apply for a formal job where if you Google my name and some crazy stuff pops up, it doesn't matter because I'm not trying to get hired. I'm not submitting my resume. I'm not going through that process. I'm done with that. You guys have been incredibly helpful. I'm not making a fundraising push now because I didn't go to court for this instance, but you guys in the past have been incredibly helpful in just simply providing lodging and helping out. And that's all I really need is a little motel so I can give you the information that I need to give. So Tony thinks that this hurts me when my name, well, it's funny. Tony posted a stream about me calling me a groomer and then immediately took it down, which is a bummer, man. I want to check it out. I love when people talk shit about me. It's kind of, to me, it makes me feel good in this BDSM kind of way. So, Tony, if you want to talk shit about me, buddy, I'm not going to file a restraining order against you. Have at it. Talk some shit. And I've invited Tony time after time to come onto my show. But, of course, he is a little wuss and a little man-child who's afraid of actual conversation, actual confrontation, because then, of course, he knows he'd be proven wrong. And he's compensating, of course, for the small size of his member. So everything is projection, everything is compensation. Sorry, guys, I'm having a little too much fun with Tony. Forgive me, but I mean, he's just such a ridiculous character. You can't help. I don't like insulting people or being mean to people. So when somebody is that vicious, I just have too much fun because it's all kind of pent up inside of me. But again, I don't like to really go after anybody unless they really, really, really deserve it. So here's the other good news about this. So this opens up the door. This shows that with what Tony has been doing, it is enough to grant restraining orders, not only against Solomon, and Solomon's an easier case because he's under 18, but against other people, because other people could say, and I've spoken to other people who have said they've genuinely been hurt by what Tony has posted, and that they're nervous that if they apply for a job, that the groomer stuff, because he's called 25 different people predators, which is fascinating because Tony has spoken for at least 30 minutes about the law. He knows so much about the laws of consent in Nevada. Like, Tony has researched. Is it okay? I still don't know, and I don't care because it's not my cup of tea. Is it okay to have sexual relations with a child who is 17 years old if they are in Nevada? Tony knows the letter of the law, and Tony has been researching that as if it's this very special project. So I'm sure he's been researching that for his own personal use and for ways where he can take advantage of the law. But the fact that he's talked about that at length in regards to Solomon and has talked about the man boobs and talked about Solomon's private parts and really disgusting stuff. Guys, that could be countered, especially since Solomon is under 18. That could be countered as sexual abuse. So that gets even worse, in my opinion. That's falling into criminal territory. And there's a lot of the digital sexual abuse. If Tony, you could argue that ZDT has been sexually harassing, talking about their body parts, various female streamers. Is that sexual abuse? So in addition to all these restraining orders that could fall down like rain upon Tony, he could also open himself up to criminal charges. So Solomon did a good job in really opening up Pandora's box and showing that you can take legal action against somebody who's just reflexively vitriolic and is out to ruin your reputation based on unfounded, exaggerated, ridiculous claims. My favorite claim is that Tony said I was facing a felony. You know, I am a weed criminal, so if you don't like that, please unsubscribe. But Tony has, tried to say that I was facing a felony. Guys, just to clear it up. And then I was with a kid when it happened. Guys, just to clear it up, as you can look and Google me and look at the court case. I got a violation for smoking weed outside of my hotel room when I was alone in the state of Georgia. I showed up to court 2 months later. The DA felt bad that the whole thing happened because they don't usually arrest people for that kind of stuff. And he knocked it down from a misdemeanor to a violation, from a $1,000 fine to a $500 fine. So I drove back to Atlanta 2 months later, showed up to court, and got a violation, which is even lower. It got converted from possession of marijuana, because I had way under an ounce. I had a quarter of an ounce, so there's nothing felonious about any of it, to disturbing the peace, which was converted into a violation. But that's just me. I don't give a shit, but that's just me giving you an example of how Tony researches people's past and tried to stretch it as far as he could go. Again, to me, I love it. I'm a narcissist, guys. I love being the center of attention. And to me, all publicity is good publicity. So Tony, no harm. We're fine. But in terms of everybody else who really feels like they're damaged, who feels like Tony calling them a predator for no reason is gonna look strange when potential employers look at their history and look them online. This creates an excellent precedent. So if anybody watching wants to take legal action against ZDT, feel free. And again, Tony thinks that I'm too scared, or that me being insulted, I'll be hurt by that and I'll stop. Hell no, brother, the war is on. And listen, if you're nervous about talking shit about anybody else and you need to get it all out of your system, bud, bring it on to me, and I'll bring it right back to you, and we'll make a fun little game out of this. So I am fair game to you, Tony. Fear not. And I do wish for Tony that, again, he's a deeply closeted man. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you're so closeted, sometimes it's like Ted Haggard, right? It's like the preacher. The more closeted you are, the more you want to deny your own sexuality, the more you lash out with hatred, with hateful vitriol against the gay community, the more you lash out with homophobia, because you're projecting. Again, he's projecting because of his small man part, as well as his closeted homosexuality. So I say, Tony's the water's fine, and just do a little video coming out, man. It's okay. I mean, it's obvious that no girl's ever going to touch him, so maybe that's why he's experimenting or having these new feelings bubble up, but it's very obvious. So come out of the closet, dude, just like Tom Cruise should, just like John Travolta should. The water's warm, but Tony is taking the Scientology approach. But hope you guys enjoyed this little video. But very good news with Solomon. Again, Tony has officially been served. The temporary restraining order is granted. In 1 month from now, it should be officially granted, and I will be there for you. And again, Thursday streets, Friday DOA. Then the following week, we got even more. I believe we got Danny, and some other court cases. So hope you guys enjoy it. And I might do a little political thing. Just tell me if you think I should, because so much has been happening in politics. And I've got a few opinions on that. And I'm a pretty moderate guy. I voted Libertarian. I'm certainly more left than right, more progressive on social issues. But I'm also pretty wary of the Democratic Party, but more wary of the Republican Party. So I like Jared Polis. He was an anti-lockdown Democrat who was very libertarian in not having these draconian lockdowns in COVID. So he was the governor of Colorado. So I think he's a good vice presidential choice. I think he should run himself, but it looks like it's all locked up for Kamala. But that's another subject. Anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed it, and please do subscribe. Au revoir.